who's at fault for a lane change collision? It depends on what happens out there. I'm Jeb Butler of the Butler Kahn Law Firm, and today we'll talk about lane change collisions, how they can occur, and who's at fault for them. The first thing we'll talk about is how they happen, and typically they'll occur on multi-lane roads, cars going in the same direction, so you'll see sometimes side swipes. That can occur on surface streets as one car is passing another lane of cars that stopped or backed up. And then you can also see merge collisions on divided highways, typically, or when someone's entering something like an interstate. These collisions can present some challenges in determining who's at fault. So you can imagine in a rear-end collision, it's usually pretty clear. If someone's at a stop sign or stoplight and someone pops them in the rear, well, you can pretty well figure out who's at fault most of the time. The same is true for a lot of T-bone collisions. But with a side swipe, it's often not clear who's at fault because you can't tell just by looking at the cars where the collision happened. Like here, take this example that we show on the right side of your screen there. We have the blue and the yellow car colliding. Now, after that collision has happened and both drivers have moved over to get out of the way of oncoming traffic, you can't tell from looking at those cars whether that collision occurred in the yellow car's lane or the blue car's lane. So unless the at-fault driver comes out and admits fault, sometimes it can be hard to figure out who's at fault. So there are a few ways that we go about doing that, determining fault in a lane change accident. And the first is good old-fashioned witness work. Get out there and find witnesses, people who saw the collision, typically who talked to the police and left their phone number, or maybe our client got the phone number on the scene. Another way that we can sometimes find it nowadays is through cameras. Occasionally, a business nearby will have a surveillance camera that'll pick up the collision. Now, we even have one case where we're using a Ring doorbell, like the kind of doorbell that records when people come to the door, happen to catch one of the collisions that we're working on. Another really good way is what we call an EDR. This is sometimes called a black box or ECM for electronic control module. EDR stands for electronic data recorder, but it's something in more modern cars like, neighborhood of 2005 and newer that record events right before a collision happens. And they can show some really nice things, such as steering inputs. So that'll often tell us who caused a collision. And the last way that we can go about doing it is by hiring an accident reconstruction expert to go out there, look at the cars, look at evidence on the scene, hopefully there's tire marks or debris marks, analyze witness statements, and do a forensic analysis of who is at fault for the collision. So you see in collisions like this all kinds of excuses for how it happened, disputes over who was coming into whose lane, merging, someone was being a jerk, someone wasn't, that kind of thing. But oftentimes the real reason for the collision is something that I bet you can guess if you think about it. And that is people are driving down the road, not paying as much attention to the road as they should because they are texting or otherwise using their phones while driving. And so the car just kind of drifts from one lane to another, causing one of these lane change collisions.